If you'd like online business explained to you in a way that you can actually understand, go to latenightim.com/explain. It's completely free, and I made it just for you. Now, how about an episode?
Episode 196.
Late Night Internet Marketing.
This week on the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast, we're going to talk about the unique opportunity that the current world situation affords you and what you need to do to take advantage of it in the next 3 months. All this and more on the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast.
The Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast.
You've been working for somebody else, but you want a business to run yourself. You want to know how to start and where to begin. Can you get out your comfort zone, my friend? Yes, you can do it right when it's late at night. At the end of the day, your dreams burning inside. So keep it up and you will find that you're building your business one night at a time.
And now, broadcasting late at night from a little studio in the big state of Texas, your host, Mark Mason.
Hey guys, it's Mark Mason. I'm self-distancing, self-isolating, or whatever you call it, coming to you from the little studio in the great state of locked down Texas. We're not actually locked down yet. My buddies in California are locked down, but we're not locked down yet in Texas. We're pretty spread out here, so I expect that whatever very stringent requirements come to us will come a little later than the more densely populated states of New York and California. Nonetheless, my family and I are being very careful. We're taking all of the recommendations that the government is throwing down very seriously. My daughter is an ICU nurse down in Houston, so we also get lots of helpful encouragement and instruction from her, and we're just being very careful here in Dallas. I hope that you are doing well wherever you are in the world, and I hope that you're safe and your family is safe and you're healthy and things are going well for you in the current situation. Last week, we talked about, hey, what does all this make possible? And that's the mindset to have. I continue to believe that in these times of crisis, that what does this make possible mindset is the right mindset to have. Because after all, to use a cliche, you've got to play the hand that you've been dealt. And really having oh, woe is me, negative attitude, no matter how bad your situation is, really doesn't help you at all. Like Tony Robbins teaches and Cliff Ravenscraft talks about all the time, really the right thing to do is to take an assessment of the situation. Don't make it worse than it is. Just recognize it for what it is, and then decide in that moment how you're going to respond. And when you respond in a positive way that's going to make things better for you. And I want to suggest to you that there's actually a recipe for this. I want to share with you the recipe that I am using in my life to figure out exactly what to do in this crazy coronavirus situation. Because this really is a crazy, unprecedented, at least in my lifetime, situation. And so it deserves a particular response on your part. It deserves a thoughtful course of action. So let's talk about the first part of this idea that we should assess the situation and not make it more than it actually is. And that's going to vary for all of you. What your actual particular personal situation is going to vary depending on how aggressively your job has been impacted to date, how it will be impacted in the future, whether or not you have school-age children at home that you're needing to homeschool and you've got to worry about taking care of that, whether or not your finances are in a condition that you can weather this storm, or whether this really puts you into a financial bind, whether or not your health is good or poor, and whether or not you're likely to be at enormous risk if you're exposed to the virus. There's lots of things to assess, but ultimately you assess your situation and understand what it means. And for almost all of us, it means that a lot of the things that were doing before can no longer be done. And for me personally, this means that travel baseball tournaments, no longer a possibility. Dance lessons for my daughter with her dance troupe, no longer going to those dance lessons. Driving back and forth to work every day. I'm still able to work at home, but the extra stuff that comes with working, getting to and from work, getting dressed and ready to go to work in the morning, and all of the associated stuff along with that, that's no longer a thing for me. And one of the things that this rational assessment means for me is that many of my commitments, every Thursday night playing softball with my guys that I've been playing with for many years, all of those commitments, they're gone. Those things are no longer possible, and at least not for now. And one very normal response to this sort of loss, whether it's job loss, a loss of connection with your friends, whatever it is to feel sad and depressed. And if you feel those feelings, know that I think that's completely normal. You need to acknowledge those and work through them. I think another real thing that's the truth about the loss of all of these things that we were doing, all these habits, social habits that we had developed, is we have an enormous amount of time on our hands that we didn't have before. And the question I want to ask you is, what exactly are you going to do with all of this time? I mean, for me personally, I'm not going to be playing softball on Thursday nights. That's 3 hours, call it 5, because usually after softball, we go out and get a couple of beers, sometimes more than a couple of beers. We're not doing that. That's 5 hours a week right there. I am not going to be driving to work every day. That's an hour by the time I get in the car and get parked and get in the office. That's an hour each way every day. That's another 10 hours a week. That's 15 hours a week right there. Baseball practice. My son and I will still do some baseball workouts, but I'm not going to be doing the amount of work on baseball. And certainly we're not going to be playing baseball tournaments. And these baseball tournaments, every 2 weeks, we're talking about wiping out an entire 8-hour day. So let's call that 4 or 5 hours a week of baseball that we're not going to be doing. So let's just call it 20 hours a week. Now, for some of you, it's going to be even more than that. And I think for me, it's actually more than 20 hours a week. Oh, I forgot church. We're not going to church anymore. Now, we'll still be doing church things in our house, but just the whole business around getting ready, going to church, hanging out afterwards, maybe going to lunch with friends after church, doing other activities related to church, none of that, right? We'll probably watch the sermon on Sundays and we'll do our own church stuff during the week like maybe we normally do, but it'll be significantly less. So we're talking 20, maybe 30 hours a week of things that used to fill up our time are no longer filling up our time. That's a realistic assessment of the situation in the Mason household in the little studio in Dallas, Texas. So what are we going to do with that time? I mean, that's a question. And I suggest that one thing that you might want to do is to repeat your 2020 goal setting process that you probably went through in January and reassess every one of those goals methodically and say, okay, does this goal still make sense given the current situation? Is this still a realistic goal? You remember with the SMART framework, we're talking about setting goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Some of your goals that you set for 2020 may no longer be achievable. And you know what? While that stinks, that's the reality. That's a realistic assessment of what's going on. So maybe that's okay, right? We take those goals and we either set them aside or retarget them, reassess them put new measurements around those goals that are appropriate for our current situation. So here's what I would like to see you do, and it's what I'm doing. As you know, I use a program called the 12-week year, and every 12 weeks, I sit down and I set goals for myself that are relevant and achievable in the next 12 weeks. And so instead of doing annual planning once a year, I do annual planning once or 4 times a year, once every 3 months, once a quarter. And the reason I do that is because, one, 3 months is something that I can get my mind around. Saying something's going to happen within the next year, that feels very far away. But saying something's going to happen in the next 3 months, that feels a lot closer. And it's easy for me to set a goal in 12 weeks and break that goal down into 12 weekly steps. Here are the 12 major things that I need to do in the next 12 weeks to accomplish these goals. That's how I look at my 12-week year every quarter. And it happens that all of this craziness is happening at the end of first quarter. So what better time for you to sit down and think about what you're going to accomplish by the end of June than right now? You can sit down and figure out, okay, from April to June, at the end of June, what would I like to be able to say, assuming that the current conditions are still pretty similar in June? And my personal feeling is that while things may change subtly, I think the current situation that you're in is likely going to be in place for a month or 2 or 3. I don't know if it's going to be 1 month. I think it's going to be more than 1 month. And I don't know if it's going to be 2 months or 3 months. Based on some of the historical data that I'm seeing with the Spanish flu and things that happened in the past, I think it's very easy to imagine that we could still be in some form of limited social interaction in the United States in 3 months. So let's make a 3-month plan that assumes that we have all of this extra time available to us between now and the end of June. What can you accomplish? What does this situation make possible for you? What is going on in your life, and where do you imagine your business, or how can you pivot your business now, given the current situation, and where can you get to in the next 3 months? Maybe you need money now and you have some skills and you can start offering those skills online. Maybe you're good at editing things and you can start opening up some kind of editing or writing business, or maybe you can do graphics online or programming, and you can start working on building this side hustle business of yours over the next 3 months. And if you say, I want to have a viable side hustle business by the end of this next 3 months, it's pretty easy to imagine 12 major steps that you might need to go through to build that business. They're going to be things like deciding what you're going to offer, getting your offer out there, marketing that offer, finding clients, delivering value in the marketplace. Maybe you need a social media presence, or you're starting to deliver content and value in your side hustle area for free. Whatever that is, you can build that plan today and tomorrow and the next day, over the weekend, or whenever it is that you can find time. Remember, we're saying you've got an extra 20 hours a week possibly in order to work this side hustle thing, or to reset your goals, or whatever it is that you're going to do. You can do that now. Maybe your goals are still in pretty good shape, but you can accelerate them because of your additional time. And that's actually my situation. So in my situation, at the moment, I'm still working my day job from home. I'm working my 40 to 50 hours a week, but I'm not driving. I don't have all these extra commitments. And yeah, there's a lot of stress and anxiety around the work that needs to be done for my day job, because my day job is fighting this coronavirus problem as well as an international manufacturing company. But still, I've got all this additional time. I can accelerate my plans for my side hustle work that I do. And so I am, in fact, reassessing all of my 2020 goals in the context of what I can do between now and the end of June in order to break those major goals. And I've got 7 of them for this next 3 months, and they're big. They're a little bit audacious, but I've got a feeling that this is going to be a unique opportunity for me, unlike anything else that's happened in the last 10 years. And I think if you choose to view it that way, that you might be able to accomplish some amazing things over the next 3 months. So I've got these 7 goals, and each one of the 7 goals is broken down into 12 weekly steps. And so I encourage you, if you're interested in this kind of methodology, I encourage you to read the New York Times bestselling book, The 12-Week Year by Brian Moran and Michael Lennington. It's a Wiley book, and it's readily available on Amazon. It's available in audiobook on Audible as well. It's a perfect, maybe one of your goals is to get your life more together over these next few months. This would be a great way for you to start to read this book. And in this book, there are some elements that are described of high performance, and a couple of the elements I think resonate really well with this idea of understanding what to do in this crisis. One is it's important to have a compelling vision that gives you a clear picture in your mind of the future. And if you're struggling with that right now, I totally understand, because change makes that hard. But just imagine if things stay basically the way they are right now, what is a compelling, exciting vision of this future for you and your family? And how does that overlay onto the goals that you want to set? Okay. That's one of the 8 elements of high performance that's described in this book. And I think that's a really important capability for you right now in the current crisis as you're planning out your new 2020 goals in the context of Corona, and you are, you've got your COVID-19 reaction plan expressed as goals that you're going to accomplish by June. Make sure that you have a clear vision of what it is that you're trying to do. And of course, these goals that you set, they need to be smart, like we've discussed before. But the other thing that I think is really awesome, if you can figure out how to do it in this situation, is find a way to hold yourself accountable to these goals. Find someone in your family, or even better, outside of your family, maybe someone that's also listens to this podcast, or listens to someone you know in the online space that's going through similar issues, and ask them to meet with you on a weekly basis to hold you accountable. What did you do this week? Very simple. What did your 12-week plan tell you that you needed to do this week? Did you get it done? And what does your 12-week plan tell you that you need to do next week? And what needs to be true in order for you to achieve those goals? Just those simple questions. Just meet with that person a little bit every week and have them hold you accountable. You can even, if you like that person, have daily 5-minute check-ins and say, hey, how'd you do today? Well, it wasn't so great. Okay, we're going to double down tomorrow. That kind of accountability, that can make a huge difference. And if you've got these 12-week goals and you've got accountability against them, and those goals are broken down into weekly action plans, I guarantee you that at the end of this thing, you will be so focused on achieving these positive goals that you've set out for yourself that have you looking towards a good vision that this will cure a lot of other side effects of being trapped in your house and worrying about the world condition. If your mindset is focused on creating a good outcome for yourself and your family, you're not going to have time to sit around and watch gloom and doom on CNN about how the world is ending, okay? You're going to be focused where you should be focused on your particular situation, and that will lift your spirits and have you moving in the right direction. So that's my recommendation for you, and I think that is the kind of thing that you can do in the face of this kind of crisis. Ask yourself what it makes possible. Make a realistic assessment of what's going on in the world and in your particular life, and make a plan. and break that plan down into 12 simple steps and go do that. Take advantage of the opportunity that this terrible situation is presenting you. And I think you are going to be a much happier person with great success at the end of this journey. Now, I know some of you are saying, oh, Mark, God, that sounds so great, but I can't do that. Let me give you one more recommendation. Go online to that's easy for me to say, fullfocusjournal.com. Go online to Mike Hyatt's Full Focus Journal and buy yourself a copy of the Full Focus Journal. Buy yourself a copy of that journal and have that sent to you, and use that journal as your new weapon to execute this 12-week-year plan. It's aligned with that sort of strategy. And that journal comes with some amazing tutorial videos made by Michael and his team about how to execute exactly what I'm talking about. And I think that will be the magic sauce. For those of you that are listening to this, but you're not sure what the first action is to take, your first action should be to go get yourself a Full Focus Journal from Michael Hyatt. I'll put a link to it in the show notes, and that will set you on your path to achieving greatness over the next 3 months. Take care of yourself, be safe, watch your podcatcher, because I will be delivering regular content to you all throughout this crisis. Next week, we're going to get back to internet marketing. I'm going to update you on what's going on with my e-commerce. I'm planning on having e-commerce be part of the home study program for my 13-year-old now that I'm in control of his education. So that's going to be awesome. We'll talk all about that and more next week. Until that time, stay safe. Ciao.
You can do it right when it's late at night.
You've been listening to the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast.
Be sure to visit lnimpodcast.com today to leave feedback for Mark. Download special bonus content, access the show notes, and more. See you there.
Until then, go and make some great progress on your internet business, one night at a time.
Building your business one night at a time.
So this has been very interesting for me to imagine what to say to people to help, really, because that's my thing. I like to help. And sometimes I help by recognizing my own shortcomings. Like what am I struggling with? Because I know if I'm struggling with it, the chances are there are other people who resonate with me and my message that are also struggling with it. And I've been having the same kind of problems over this, right? I mean, just binge news watching about, watching Trump Babylon about, all the things he's doing and not doing and why he didn't do and all this kind of stuff, talking about, stuff. And I don't want to get political here, but, saying as a scientist, sometimes he says things that concern me, but be that as it may, just getting wrapped up in all of that, sort of just kind of sitting around and watching television and, binge watching things on Netflix and just doing things that aren't productive, but that are totally normal in a situation like this, where you just kind of want to shut down because the situation is a little scary and depressing. And, so that's real. And so, I know that if I have those tendencies, then there are people out there that are listening to this that do too. And so I think the first thing is it's okay. It's okay for you to be afraid or scared or worried or concerned or depressed or, to feel weird or not be sure what to do. That's all okay. I think, like I discussed earlier in the show, it's important to recognize that that's what's going on. I mean, the first thing is to name it, right? To call it out and assess it, but don't make it worse than it is. I think this is one of the key things that Tony Robbins talks about, and Cliff also talks about this. Assessing a thing is really important, but don't make it worse than it is. It is what it is. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of bad stuff going on that you can't control, but your situation is whatever it is, and it's not worse than that. And it's not worse than that yet. So preparing for the future is one thing, but sitting around and worrying about it is something totally different. So, it's okay if that's your situation. And I think the best way out of it is first of all, to stop goofing off and to take some action, hold yourself accountable to move forward. That's important. And that's what I'm doing. And have a plan. And that's what I'm offering you. So I hope that helps. We're trying to figure out just what to do about baseball. Zach is, we were going to have private lessons at the batting cages, and the batting cages were undergoing extra sanitation, and it was going to be just one instructor and one student, no parents allowed. They were really going to contain it. And then, of course, that's been determined that that's not the right thing to do. So the batting cages are shut down now. So, we're trying to figure out, okay, it's me and him, and I'm going to be teaching some baseball, and not really teaching, but working him out and doing some stuff, because we're going to play baseball again. It's going to be a while, but I suspect by fall the spring season is toast, but I suspect by fall that we'll be playing baseball again. I sure hope so. And we're going to be ready when that happens. We're going to be one of the 13-year-old kids that was doing work in the off season, that was, pitching every day and hitting balls off the tee, because that's the future we want to manifest. And so we're going to have that vision of the future, that when this thing comes out, we want to be stronger. When we come out of this, we want to be prepared. We want to be able to take advantage of all of the amazing things that are going to happen when this gets solved. We want to be in that position. And if you let everything lie fallow, and you don't take the opportunity to advance during this downtime, and a lot of people are going to be in that situation, then you're going to miss a great opportunity to do things. And so I encourage you to be okay with the fact that this is weird. Embrace that, and like me, do get after it. Do something. Impress me. Hey, if that's you, reach out to me. Let me know what's going on and how I can help you. And I'll see you next week. Ciao.
Late night internet marketing.
Hey, it's Mark again. I wanted to tell you one more time about this absolutely free resource that I have for helping people who are trying to get the big picture for internet marketing, actually get started and understand what all their choices are. If that's not you, there's no more content. You can skip to the end. But if you're someone who came to this podcast because you're searching for how to get started online and you just can't cut through all the noise, I get it. That was me in 2007 when I was trying to get started. There were so many people throwing offers at me that I really couldn't even understand what all the different business models were. I couldn't understand how money moved around on the internet, and I couldn't really get a grip on what direction I wanted to go in so I could figure out how to move forward. I've created a free video resource for you just for that purpose at latenightim.com/explain. In several short videos, I just explained to you what internet marketing is all about and what online business is all about and the different options that you have for starting an online business. There's nothing to buy there. You just sign up for access and you get the videos just like that. So if that's interesting to you, or if you know someone who's in a same situation, send them that link, latenightim.com/explain. And let me know what you think. I'd love to hear what people are thinking that are in the exact same position that I was in more than a decade ago in 2007. In some ways, it seems like yesterday. And in some ways, it seems like an entire lifetime ago. Again, that's latenightim.com/explain.
Late night internet marketing.